Hello and welcome into Sorare with Laird. I am Andrew Laird. You can find me as Lairdino on Sorare, talking today about time and how much time flies and drags on Sorare, seemingly all at the same time. Very strange. It's actually, this all came about from a conversation that I had, or at least I was part of on Discord with a couple of friends, talking about kind of where the game is right now. And it's a group mostly of older users, meaning people who have been on the platform for a long time, and how we try to see the platform for what it is today, even though it's really hard to do so knowing and experiencing and living through everything that the platform was. And it's going to be that's going to be the topic for today. Dobbsy, Mikey Baston, and Toby on the podium. Congratulations to you three. Dobbsy said, does it count as a podium an hour early? The only reason why it was only an hour early, and I believe you were 51 minutes early, is because I posted the video quite late today. And I did that because I have a sick kid at home today. And that just throws everything off. Yeah. Sora Burrow, what's up? Just signed up for the Patreon. Happy to fund the magic. Thank you very much for doing that. For anyone else that is interested in it, patreon.com/Andrew M. Laird. You can see it on the bottom of the screen there. There's a link in the description below. That Patreon helps basically produce, or at least fund all of these daily streams that I do, whether it's Sorare or MFL or Footium or pineapple cutting or whatever the conversation is that day. The people who participate in the Patreon at whatever level are really the ones who everybody else should be thanking for doing this, because the more that Patreon grows, the less time I need to spend figuring out other ways to bring money in. And, I'm just trying to be honest with you guys of how this all works. But it's been really nice to see that community grow. And there's a Discord chat specifically for those people. And the Discord discussion I was referencing before was actually not from that group. But it's a nice growing community of people who all love Sorare, or at least love talking to people who play Sorare. And that's kind of what this channel is all about. Sorare that brings us all together to talk about whatever. Philly Dilly said, Sorare Timelapse is when the show is supposed to start compared to when it actually starts, which is really a low blow. It's accurate, but a low blow regardless. Nep, what's up? First in, way to be. Anyan, Sean Kennedy, Harry Trades, the GOAT, real time or Ladino time. See, I was on time today, guys. MFL Footium is going to seem like Lightspeed compared to Sorare. Toby Alexander, what's up? So I actually, this actually had very little to do with MFL and Footium. But the whole discussion, let me give at least some backstory in the discussion, is that people who are new to the platform seem to be much more appreciative of the platform and positive about it than those who join later. And the reason that's the case is because a lot of people, particularly those who joined when I did, or around the time I did, or even within like a year or two of when I did, maybe a year, we're used to, playing for much bigger prizes because the cards were worth so much more money, because there was this kind of NFT crypto boom, and that led pretty directly into Sorare. And so during that time, not only were the cards worth so much money, but it was also quite easy to win. And so we got used to constantly churning rewards, mostly card rewards that were worth a lot of money, but there was cash too, like the threshold from the old All-Star Rare that I've kind of referenced for those of you who were not around for that time. In All-Star Rare, if you scored 205 points, you got 0.01 ETH, and 250 points, you got 0.02, which at the time felt like nothing. But you got that, and then obviously the cap 240 days. And so there was just kind of this expectation of rewards all the time, meaning every game week you should win something. And for those of us who lived through that, it's very frustrating now to go through the whole process of playing Sorare and not winning as much as we did. And it's very easy to see who these people are because they're usually just complaining about the fact that the rewards aren't good enough. And the irony is, maybe it's not irony at all, but I'll say it, is that for years we've been talking about how the game was going to get harder when more people sign up to play, because you get a combination of more cards every year obviously means that there are more cards in circulation that you're going to have to compete against. But also, at some point, if you have more users joining, a certain percentage of those users will be very good at the game. And if you bring in more people who are good at the game and you're just kind of average, but it was good enough previously to just churn all these rewards, then the game's going to get harder and the experience won't be as great, only because you're winning less. Now, I'm as guilty of that as anyone else. Like, I'm winning less now than I was, 2 or 3 years ago. And it's actually I actually say that I might be winning more cash now than I used to win, because the threshold was never really like that much money. Cap 240 Super I was still the best ever, and the reason why Sorare would have gone bankrupt if they had kept that going. But the interesting thing about the Sorare time is the longer you've been here, it feels like there's a direct correlation between how long you've been here and how happy you are where the platform is right now. And it's unfortunately inverse. The longer you've been here, the lower you feel about the platform. And I'm not saying this is everybody, but there are a good number of users. And frankly, the ones who are still here are probably even more bitter, because all of the people that felt like them who left at least were able to leave, and they're off doing whatever, who knows what they're doing. But the the more people that I talk to, and the more people kind of like watch these streams and check in on the live chat, or even just reach out to me on DMs or whatever, who have joined within the last year or so, think the game is great. And I've talked about this with PSU fans, that if we had never been on the platform and we saw what the platform is now, we'd be like, wow, that's a really cool idea. That's a great game. But because we were here at a time where you could win Mbappe and sell it for $20,000, a rare card. Do you actually get up to 20,000? It might have actually been even higher. And what was even better about it is that because back then the fiat values, like, nobody cared about fiat, you almost didn't even really know how much money you had. Let's check in on the historical value of an Mbappe. What's the highest it ever got? Oh my God. $80,000. One sold for 56,000, and then 33,000. So that's a lot of money. That's a $32,000. So like it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Floor price is now 84. So when you played the game in a time where the top prize and Mbappe rare was always the kind of the prize, the game is much different. Toby said pretty stable around 20K is wild. Yeah, I mean, if you look at it for for a good amount of time, well, yeah, I mean, you're in that kind of range between 15 and 25,000. And then I remember it was kind of around here. I think one sold for like, I think it was Zarchi who got the first one. In fact, let's see. This is going to take forever, I bet. I'm trying to think of what card. The 2022s. Is this going to give me a lot of them? No, it's not. I'm not even going to look. But anyway, we did a show about what it meant, because this user Zarchipu, who friend of the show, bought an Mbappe on auction. I forget what the price was, but let's call it like $7,000, and it looked like a steal. And we were like, "Wow, great job!" And it turned out to be the kind of the beginning of the downfall. And the we kind of like, for people who lived through that, and now you win an Mbappe and you can sell them for $85. Oh, that's a limited. Excuse me. $510 for an Mbappe rare um, is very different. Lucas said, I mean, cards are worth less because prices are less. Yes, I mean, it's the same thing, same thing. And ZM Star makes an interesting point here. Then they're also reducing the hot streak target because no one's winning it. So the way that or the difficulty that we have as kind of like older users is it's hard to tell somebody to just like forget what they learned, what they experienced. And I keep trying to do it myself. It's straight up mental gymnastics of looking at the game, which let's call it just looking at in season for now, and saying, that's the game. Do you want to play it? And without any sort of historical background of Sorare, my answer would be yes. Yes, I would want to play that game. You buy these cards, you compete for cash, and then after the year, you play on these other competitions. And I remember when Maxime and I did a show all about DraftKings Rainmakers, and that was their deal. Like that was the whole purpose of the game, was you could compete for cash with your in-season cards, and then they had these classic cards which were kind of in the background. And people told us that if Sorare ever did that, like the platform was dead. And the more we talked through it, it was more like, yeah, I don't, Sorare could do this, but we don't know. But it made sense. And obviously Sorare has done this now. And there are a number of people who at one time looked at Sorare and said, okay, so I buy cards and I use them to win cards, or if I beat the game, I can win a little cash. And they looked at that game and didn't sign up. They didn't want to play that. And then all of a sudden they change it and say, hey, if you buy the in-season cards, you can compete for cash with them. And those are the rewards. And I think for older users, we looked at that and we were like, man, the cash isn't really equal to the $25,000 that we could have won when we were winning cards. But for the people who weren't users yet, they finally got this picture of like what you could actually win. Because it's just like a hard sell to getting people to join the game when the idea is, yeah, you use cards to win cards. And John Nellis was one of the first one to even said this, that was like, how far can this go where you're just like winning cards to win cards to win cards to win cards? And at some point, you obviously can sell the cards for cash, but there's still that extra point. And so Sorare changes and say, hey, we're going to have these competitions and you can win cash. And there were a decent number of users decent number of potential users who looked at that and they were like, oh, I understand that. I'll play. And I think for a lot of us who joined the platform where cards were really like the reward, we need to recognize that cash prizes are more attractive to potential users than card prizes. Because saying, oh, I won a Haaland, and everyone's like, oh, that's really cool. The next question is, how much is that worth? And then you have to explain the whole thing. Well, yeah, you have to sell it, and then you do this, post it, and then maybe you have to drop it. And instead it's like, hey, I won $3,000. And people understand that. And this Sorare Timelapse thing that I was thinking of is it really hasn't been a very long time in my lifespan, and I'm obviously older than most of you, but that I've been on this game. But obviously where we were is very different than where we are now. But I think that if you talk to the person who signed up for Sorare, like as a user, if you could go back and talk to yourself before you signed up and you said, well, there's this one game where you win cards, buy these cards to win cards, to win cards, to win cards, to win cards. And then you can sell those cards, or you buy these cards and you compete for cash. Which game are you signing up for? And I think all of us sign up for the cash game, to be honest. And anyone who says, no, I'd prefer to win the cards, I think is actually lying to themselves. And the reason they're lying to themselves is because they know what the cards used to be worth. And they're not worth that now because the game is very different. But you're not going to be able to convince brand new people to come play Sorare with this, like, yeah, you can win this Mbappe that sold for $20,000. people are like, all right, well, what if I could just win? Well, it's obviously not 20,000 in cash, but like the cash prizes, I think was a major turning point for Sorare, like actually competing for cash. Because even when we still have podium cash and classic, but even when when classic competition, everything was classic competitions, podium cash, yes, it was a reward, but it was almost like a secondary reward to the card that you got. And only 3 people won in each competition. And so there wasn't this idea that we're all competing for cash. Theoretically, we are, but only 3 of us, because it was single entry, we're going to win it. And so it's become very difficult, or it's always been very difficult for users who were used to winning this card game to accept that this new game is actually more like would have been more attractive to us the entire time, which is why we see newer people coming in and playing the game and enjoying competing for cash. And it kind of goes back to a conversation I had with Gator Guy, which he's talked about on stream before. It might have been on Monday, but there's nothing overly exciting. There's no dopamine hit when you win cash. People enjoy winning cash, sure, but there was this kind of like magic about Sorare of winning a card, and it's like, oh, what could it be? Forward France, and then it was like, someone you've never heard of, but the game, from a potential user standpoint, the game of competing for cash is more attractive. And once they're here, it's like that's all they know, and they know about crafting cards, and like that's exciting if you like hit a good one. But ultimately, I think more of us need to appreciate that where the game is right now is probably more likely a game that we would have played when we joined than the one that we actually joined. Sorry, let me catch up here. And you said, I imagine how you feel when I feel bad for their reward change from lowest win in limited of $15 to $7. Right now, to win more than $7 in limited feels like gambling. So I totally disagree that it's gambling, meaning like it's not a lottery. Like you still have to get the highest score. The game is the same. I just spilled right on my pants. So like moisture wicking pants. So I just have like beads of seltzer on me. Anyway, sorry for those listening. I just literally tried to sip from my Polar Seltzer, ruby red grapefruit. It's actually quite tasty, but just, I don't know if I missed my mouth or what happened there. Anyway, moving on. Philly Dilly, my thinking on this is the decisions you made that may have been wrong and or lost money don't matter going forward. Are you making correct decisions now and in the future? So I think that's right. And I'm not going to sit here and say like, just get over it, even though that's absolutely the correct advice. But I think what we need to, like the mindset change is not so much like, do I like this game more than what we used to have? It's, do I like this game? Full stop. And if the answer is no, that's okay. But I think instead of comparing to what it used to be, we have to have more of a focus on, do I like this current game? And there are plenty of people who say they don't. But if you presented this game to them with no back knowledge or no back experience of Sorare, the answer, I think, for a lot of people, not everybody, but I think the answer for a lot of people is yes. Toby said it's easier to sell, quote, you can win $2,000, unquote, rather than, quote, you can win Rodri, who you could probably sell for $2,000, unquote. Agreed. Durs TFT, hello Laird, I've been wanting to try out either MFL or Footium, but I have a limited budget of $100. In which game can I be competitive with that low budget? I haven't done a lot of Footium budgeting. I know that $100 will get you well into MFL, but I'm sure there are videos about ways that you can get into Footium. I think $100 is a little light. Particularly on Footium because you have to get all of your players, but yeah. That's the answer. Lucas said, but there's also the argument of investment-free fun while competing for prizes that people were and are attracted to. Investment-free fun. What do you mean by investment-free fun? I don't think you can have... I'm not sure what this means. Do you mean like that you're not looking at it as an investment? You don't consider it an investment? And you're just having fun on Sorare competing for prizes? Hilo said, I like this game enough to play with what I have, but not enough to put any money into it. Well, I mean, you've already probably put lots of money into it. ZM Star said, the problem with looking ahead is the uncertainty that they will overhaul everything every 6 months. So I'm actually not even, I'm not even thinking about looking ahead 6 months, like looking at the game right now and saying, is this a game that you would enjoy? Meaning buying cards and when presented to you, or if somebody asked me about it, I would never tell them to buy classic cards at this point. And so it's, do you want to buy these cards to compete for cash? And it's not until, like, if the answer to that is yes, then you can start going into more questions about how you actually do that. But if the answer is no, then it is what it is. But there are plenty of people who like to play games that require money to play where you can win cash. And Sorare has a very clear path of how you do it. You buy your cards, which require cash or ETH, I guess. You compete in tournaments. And if you beat everybody, or if at least you beat everybody but the top 750, you can win something. It's a very simple transaction flow. And as we all know, we all meaning people who've been here before or have been here, that the more you spend, the more likely you are to start getting into the rewards. But it's also the more you spend, the more you have to win back if you're looking to win back more than you spent. And some people aren't. Some people are perfectly content plowing lots of money in with the hope of finishing first. And most people are not going to finish first. Good morning, fellow investors. It's afternoon, Andy. Jeez, come on. Goose said, also hashtag not financial advice. Goose said, I don't disagree that winning money is more attractive to a large audience, but I believe there are still people like Quinny who enjoy emotionally connecting to cards you have won. So I'm not saying that winning cards is not fun, but I would present that to Quinny as well. That when did Quinny join Sorare? Can't remember if we have that. If you went up to Quinny on June 20th, 2020, my God, it's a long time, 6/20/2020. If you went up to him, let's do it the day before. Let's see, June 19th, 2020. It was a Friday. So Friday, June 19th, 2020, and you go up to Quinny and you say, there is this fantasy football game where you buy these cards and you compete against other people and you can win other cards. Or here's a fantasy football game where you buy these cards and compete with other people and you can win cash. Who's taking the cards? Genuinely. Now, I adore winning cards. It doesn't happen very often for me now. I got a terrible one yesterday, a tier 3 of a guy I don't even remember who I won. Yeah, I won a tier 3 and it was Rosen Bozen. Oh no, I crafted that card. Angel Gomez, excuse me, who I had no idea was English. This was a tier 3 card that I won yesterday. I don't know how he's in tier 3, but he was. I'm pretty sure it was a tier 3. Yeah, tier 3 in anti-stacks. Look at these cards I won. Like, who are these guys? But anyway, winning cards is really fun. But I also don't think that it's the selling point to get us to play. And I think Sorare's in a place now where they have a much more attractive game for people who want to play. And this isn't even going into the whole fact that they've basically hidden the crypto part of it, which I think was the step that they had to take to go mainstream. There was a long time where uh, Nicola Julia would say things like they wanted to be the biggest sports brand or entertainment brand in the world. And they were so reliant on Ethereum. And the goal, like being the biggest sports entertainment company in the world, being fully reliant on people accepting cryptocurrency as a standard. One was going to move much faster than the other. Not that Sorare is even remotely close to being the biggest sports entertainment company in the world, but that path is easier versus cryptocurrency adoption. And so they had to use the cards as rewards. And we still have it. Like classic competitions still exist, and we still win cards all the time. But I'm almost fully convinced that a game where you can win, a game that seems to be a money game where you use cards, basically poker, is much better when there are cash prizes, or is much more attractive to people than cash prizes. And for those of us who have been a part of this Sorare journey from cards are what we win and what we strive for and what we can sell for tens of thousands of dollars to now we're playing for cash. The game is quite interesting now. It's as simple as that. Anion said, I think the old game always had a feel of progression with getting more cards, making you more competitive. I think that got lost with this new game where you buy your team up front at the start. So that's an interesting point that you say that, because progression in Sorare has always been kind of this false dream, is not the right word, but progression happened much less than it seemed the game was designed to do. And there were a lot of things that Sorare did in order to encourage progression. And it was almost like the steps that they implemented to encourage progression were actually counter to progression, and the users figured out the progression on their own. So Rare Pro, which was a competition that allowed you to use 3 rares and up to 2 super rares, that was the progression, except too many people stopped there. People were buying super rares to play Rare Pro and not to move up to super rare. And then Sorare started offering, or the problem with the super rare division is that you could win it could you ever win a unique? But like you were winning down scarcities for a while, and there really wasn't progression. And then once they decided that Rare Pro was the progression from rare to super rare, the obvious answer, or the obvious next step, was limited pro. Copy your Rare Pro option, do 3 limiteds and 2 rares, and they just never did it. And so like progression is long overrated on Sorare, but now it's just cash based. The idea is, instead of winning the next scarcity up, you're winning cash so that you can buy your way there. That was really always the way that you progressed. We always got this idea that you could win it. Oh, if I'll play some rare competitions, I'll win enough super rares. I don't even remember where you could do that. Maybe some specials. But ultimately, it always came down to, if you won enough cash and won enough cards and sold them, you just bought the next scarcity. And this new gameplay allows that to happen faster because you win the cash directly. You also say you buy your team up front, but plenty of people buy cards all throughout the season. You don't have to do it right up front. Klarna is the future. Can't call it gambling, but they allow buy now, pay later insanity. Buy now, pay later is definitely not gambling, though. So Josh said, I find MFL and Footium very interesting right now. Reminds me of 2021 Sorare, when the game is basically perceived as perfect because player prices and portfolio values constantly go up. Do people track their portfolio values on Footium and MFL? Is that a thing? I don't even know. Goose said, I am kind of bored of just winning cash. So if you couldn't win cards anymore, I don't know if I would enjoy it as much long term, but maybe that's my inner gamer who enjoys winning shiny, cool things. I think that's reasonable. And there is nothing exciting on the platform about winning cash. Like even when you opened all your cards, they had like a card for cash and like you knew what you were getting, and yet there was still something there. And now they're just like, yeah, it's in your wallet, no problem. And yeah, I agree with you, but every game where you win cash is boring like that. Daily fantasy sports, poker, like it's you're just your number, just number go up. And so it's okay if that part of the game is boring, if the other parts of the game are exciting. And right now they're not overly exciting. Um, but so I don't know what the solution is to that. Like winning cash is boring, yes, but what you can do with that cash is a lot more exciting than winning a card and then thinking, oh, now I have to go sell it in order to get cash in order to get the cards I want. Um, Dujay said, unfortunately, it's currently really tough for me to justify spending on Sorare over playing DFS. Well, congratulations on being a profitable DFS player because like 90 something percent of people aren't. So GG's, man. That's really hard. So congratulations. Like literally, that's very, very hard to do, is to be profitable playing daily fantasy sports. Simo said, if they started from day one in 2020 with in-season only and end of the season cards become redundant, would it be as popular? Would we bat an eyelid or be crying out for classic comps? I don't think we'd be crying out. Excuse me. You're saying like if the cards just died? I think it's great that they're using classic comps. I think this idea that they should make classic comps great is absurd, frankly. There's no reason for them to do it. I think if they wanted to say, yeah, at the end of the season they disappear or they just become collectibles, consider them retired. If they had done that from the beginning, I think it's reasonable that people would be like, okay, yeah, I get it. And I'll just play again next season. Like every fantasy game starts again in the following season. People who play fantasy NFL, the season is September through December. And every year, if you're in leagues that play for money, you put in your money in the beginning of the season, you play the year. Fantasy baseball, all fantasy sports act like this. And even in FPL, private leagues, it's the same thing. August comes, you all put your money in the pot, play the season. At the end of the season, you get your money. The difference in Sorare is you can win every week. Anion said, I see it from a point that before when you won cards and you sold them and strengthened where you're strong. Right now, when you do that, it feels bad because you need your rewards to buy back next season. I mean, it's all strengthening. Like you won cards and you sold them to strengthen your gallery. You're doing the same thing now, except maybe it's just delayed. You're just buying them in August for the new season. JH said, if Sorare had been more mindful of licenses and the extreme increase in hiring new people, they would be more sustainable. So I think that's really unfair on both sides, actually. Sorare got additional licenses because they couldn't get the ones they really wanted. They have the ones they really wanted now. If they had been able to get the Prem right away, obviously they would have done it, but they couldn't. Either it wasn't available or they didn't have the money for it. And this extreme increase in hiring new people, like that's what happens when a group of people give you $600 million. And nobody in their right mind turns down 600, I think it was, what was it, 685, over $600 million. You start a company with the dream of creating something grand and getting rich. And when somebody comes to you and says, would you like $600 million because we think your company is worth 4.3 billion? You don't say no. Like you don't. But it also requires significant amount of work to say, all right, now we have to make this money back. So you go get more licenses, including the NBA and MLB, and you need people to work on all that stuff. I don't think anybody in their right mind would say that what they did was wrong. Meaning like taking all of that money. How they did it, maybe I'm perfectly content people saying, maybe either the people were wrong or the plans that came out, like what they decided to do was wrong. But taking that money, like we'd all want that. We would all do it. Josh said, I'd argue progression was way harder back then. We had to spend four figures for any decent rare goalkeeper at one point. It made it ridiculously hard to progress for new users. Yeah, that's true too. Absolutely. Buy now, pay later is way worse than gambling. I mean, it's what you do for a house, right? One is spending your current money, other is spending money you don't even have. I'm not going to, I mean, okay. Don Q said, I prefer winning cash over cards, love keeping track of ROI, and work towards buying cards I want or withdraw part of the initial investment. I like the pressure of in-season as well, but I'm a sicko like that. Dobbsy said, if they simply made it so the card rewards were like crafting, so it's a tier 5 plus. Baseball's getting close to that. Mark Berman, whose name I don't recognize. Mark, you new? You new around here? Were you a lurker? Anyway, if you're bored with winning cash, then sell your in-season players and buy the classic version. Yeah, also possible. Goose said progression doesn't have to be just from limited to rare. You can also progress within a scarcity. Yeah, we've talked about that before. Horizontal progression, meaning playing more competitions. If you only play champ, maybe play a little challenger. And then vertical is going to up scarcity. DM Star said, does the Band-Aid need to come off now and cut all non-top 5 leagues? I'm not. I don't think that's completely out of the question. I don't think it's going to happen. I have no idea. Part of me is kind of like, because I can't imagine licenses for non-top 5 leagues are that expensive. Excuse me, but I think you're very naive if you think that when Sorare started, if they could have had the big 5 licenses and that's it, that they wouldn't have chosen that. Sorare fumes. I'm adamantly safe, always have been. The game has gone downhill since they panicked and brought in D2 teams as Ultimate Champs had the licenses, completely ruined the market when Wanted Zek was the best. The difficulty with the Division 2 teams is that it came fairly soon after limiteds, I think. And limiteds were introduced because there wasn't enough supply for the demand. And then so you brought in limiteds, which included obviously 1,000 of each card instead of 100. But then the addition of the D2 teams, it just like flooded the market with supply. And yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, like Marvin Von Itzek and Maxime said that for years. Like if he's the most attractive card in the game, there's something wrong with the game. But I would argue that they've already fixed that. Oh, which Don Q said right after that. Sorry. Who said, the thing I really love about Sorare is the fact that I get the feeling, the untrue feeling, that there's an opportunity to keep winning without buying new cards. I don't know if it's untrue, but it's obviously harder. The game is way more accessible now for the masses. Yeah. JH said, if they kill Classic, they are done. Ooh. This has been an endless downward spiral since the World Cup. Shout out Global Club. Cards losing more and more value and utility. We have to start asking at what point, why are we here? Jay, why are you here? Genuinely. Like, I'm curious, like you're saying, like, we have to start asking at one point, why are we here? Let's make that point right now. Why are you here? Mark, first time sending in the chat, but watch you and Harry in the background for some help with what to do as a new player to this. Let's go. Let's go. Welcome to the chat. Thank you. The Marvin stan, Andy Black, having none of the Marvin slander. Sorbero said, I think they will trim some licenses, but it's too core of a game now with some leagues. I mean, they had all of the Turkish Super League, and then now they only have 4 teams. It does seem like they're moving towards more of a, we'll take the best teams from each league. And they expanded the Danish Superliga licenses a little bit recently. I was very surprised about that. But maybe they do just want kind of leagues everywhere. Um I made this point um a while ago. Sorry, I was going somewhere else, and then I'll finish this point. But there was a time where it seemed like Sorare kind of wanted to have licenses everywhere because they wanted this idea to be able to sell the game of, if you know your local league really, really well, you can play Sorare. If you live in Colombia or Peru or Ecuador or Chile or Austria or Denmark, and you know the league, like we'll give you some cards from your league, and if you like use those to compete against everybody else. And for a while, that almost felt like the backup solution to what, like, if we don't get the Prem, we don't get La Liga, Bundesliga. And so they had always said they wanted the top 20 leagues in the world, and then they would sign, yeah, like the Peruvian league, not the whole league, but they would have a team there. And everyone's like, I don't think they're in top 20. And it was like, no, no, they don't only want the top 20. They want the top 20 and they'll take everything else. And now I wonder if they're looking back thinking maybe we shouldn't have done that. But at the time it was what they had the opportunity to have. And again, if you're going to be the biggest sports entertainment company in the world, you've got to be able to offer something to everybody throughout the world. Demand is there for non-conventional leagues, seeing the prices of Contender in the summer MLS and most recently the Rosenberg cards. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair. DJ said, "Would argue it's easier being profitable playing DFS than Sorare, at least in Europe." Is that like Fan Team? Is that what you guys have as like the main DFS one? DraftKings is very hard to be profitable on in the US. Toby said, "Oh, they cut La Liga too. That's right. Can't see them cut everything except the top teams in Croatia and Austria soon too." Yeah. Simo said, "If Sorare charged a monthly subscription, say a tenner to play, but use the money to increase prize pools, particularly in Classic, would you play?" I would prefer to spend that monthly subscription on Patreon. Patreon.com/Andrew M. Laird. Just support all the Sorare content you could ever want. That's another thing that Maxime brought up. Simo, his was more of an annual thing. He called it a battle pass. He didn't come up with that. That's kind of a standard video game thing. I don't know. I don't know if I would, to be honest. I don't know. It's an interesting idea, though. Sorry. I don't think so. This is my quick few second thoughts on this. Unless all of the money went to the prize pool, I'm not sure people would have a good experience with that. Meaning, oh, I pay $10. The 10 of us pay $10 and we're going to play for 90, which is exactly how DFS works. But obviously everybody who's already here would be infuriated about it, would be infuriated, or would be furious. And so I don't know. Generally, I don't know. Jay said, "I still want them to succeed. Staying silent will not help anyone." So, so you're still here because you want them to succeed. I don't know. Once they rebrand the Prestige worldwide, there will be bigger sports marketing brand in the world. And he said, "I think their plan going forward is to have teams more balanced, like Prem or MLS, so they can have their wish of more different winners every week." Yeah, I don't know. I need to start thinking of comments to tee you up for the Patreon pitch. Yeah, for real. For real. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're right. Of course there would be a rake. There's always a rake. I just wonder how many people, that's another thing. Like, would new users, the reason why I'm hesitating on it is because you either play for free by having to buy game pieces, or you pay to enter some sort of competition, right? And that is both having to pay for the pieces and pay to play. And that's why I think that's a tough sell, even if it was brand new. But what's funny is that it almost, we kind of forget that part of the value of our cards is is that the cards are your ticket to a contest where you can win stuff. And Quinny always said that about, it was back with like rare goalkeepers. You pay more money for the rare goalkeeper because that's your ticket into the tournament all the time, like from now on. And it does seem weird. I can't think of another dynamic where you have to like pay for the pieces and then pay to play. Um, I can't really think of one off the top of my head. But I think it would be extremely, extremely hard to implement for So Rare, knowing how people react now to the change in the game versus what it used to be, and then making a further change of, yes, now you're just paying to play. As weird as that sounds. Like we're always paying to play, but at least like we have something. Hey, no, it's okay. You can buy these because they're NFTs. You can sell them. But now it's like if you're just paying also to play, where does that leave you? David said, I think for me, a player of 5 years, the game is just a bit stale now. It was fun and unique to start. Now that it's FIFA Ultimate Team within season, I've downsized to MLS and enjoying it, but it's not the same. Yeah, it's definitely not the same. But I think a lot of the excitement that we experienced over the years was because the cards were so much more valuable. And that in itself was completely unsustainable. This game was never going to be able to thrive when rare goalkeepers were $800 for a guy from Gamba, Osaka. And I use that example because I'm fairly certain that's what I paid for my Masaki Higashiguchi. Let's see. This is one of the first rare goalkeepers I bought, $935. That might have been the first goalkeeper I ever bought. April 3rd, 2021. And I joined. When did I join? November 25th, 2020, but I didn't buy my first card until it was Keaton Parks. Here it is. So Rare gave me these cards to play. My first Keaton Parks was, November 27th. Okay. So I bought all these cards. I won Armani. Oh, maybe I won Armani before I got Higashiguchi? Really? No, this isn't right. Hold on. Oh, there he is. So I had Armani. I had Go Hitano too. And then, so yeah, Higashiguchi was the first goalkeeper I bought for $935. So Andy says, great investment, but look at this. You're going to eat your words here, Andy Black. I won Joan Umari, Carlos Heel, along with $1,500 in ETH. Look at all these thresholds. I won a Marius Hoibrayton. Look at that. $2,100 in cash he helped me win. This guy's a goat. He's a Lairdinho FC legend. But anyway. So the game was a lot more exciting when I could spend $935 on Masaki Higashiguchi. But there just weren't enough people to warrant that. And there's an argument that Surface and Air Missile and I have where he was like, what if they had just kept it as a luxury product? And my argument to this day is there are just not enough people who are willing to play fantasy football with those prices. And it's a really fun game when you can have fun with it. MC Sorer said, still think that classic cards have a huge potential for fun, if not profitability. If they could open the platform for user-made competitions, that could bring back some utility for Classic. I think Sorare Mega is going to save us all. They're coming back. I have absolutely no idea what they're doing, but they're coming back. That's more utility. But MC Sorare, the biggest thing with like bringing or allowing users to use their cards in other competitions is that eventually somebody needs a gambling license. But it's open. The platform is plenty open to use these cards elsewhere. People just have to build the platform for it. That's all. My God, some of these early cards. Andy Black didn't even call me out that I have this Leandro Desabato right here. He made me buy that card. He said he was going to be really good. Hey, Eagle FN, maybe you mentioned it, but wonder how many of the MLB changes, energy mainly, will come to the football side. I haven't mentioned it today, but I did a whole show on that. I think they will come. I don't know about energy. Energy is the one that that I don't know about because, and I didn't put this up on the screen earlier, but I'll do it now. Energy is going to save us all from Andy Black. But I don't know how, I don't know. I'm less convinced on energy coming to football than I am ceiling vaults and player loyalty and all that stuff. But I think the reason why energy may not come is it'll actually end up being not too good. So there's a fine line that Sorare have to walk when it comes to energy. And they basically have to make it so that you can win enough where you can play at least like you can continue using a classic card in season competitions, but you really don't want people winning enough energy where they could play 3 of 5 classics or 5 of 5 classics. And so it's a really tough balancing act for them because you want it to look like people can win enough energy to play at least one classic card in season competitions, but you still need them to buy in season cards. And I was a bit surprised that they didn't do a similar beat the streak or hot streak, excuse me, or some sort of beat the game element with 5 in-season cards like they've done with MLS. I was surprised they didn't do that in MLB. The energy thing obviously adds some wrinkles when it comes to using those cards in in-season. Like I'm using my current baseball, regular game week lineup, I think has 2 classic cards in it, energized classic cards. There's this bi-weekly one. Here. Like these are 2 classic cards. And Devin Williams, no. Bummer, dude. Anyway, and then Mookie Betts is energized, but I think I have enough energy. Like limited 225 is enough to do a full lineup of energized classic cards for in season. And I almost feel like they can't afford to do that. Yeah, it is coming. Yes, Beat the Game is coming in MLB. We just don't know what it is yet. Beat the Game is live in MLS. Yeah, like I'm saying, it works there. It's not live in MLB. But I don't know. So I don't know. It's almost weird to me because they gave us a very good incentive to play all in-season cards for MLS. Like you have the Beat the Game, you only qualify with in-season cards, and then they do this other thing on the baseball side that looks like something that we all want. We want to use more classic cards, but it's going to stop us from buying in-season cards. And I think we can all admit that that's not what they want us to do. It's not in their best interest. And so I don't know. We'll see. Did Clay Holmes get bumped? Is that why he's not showing as probable? Or is it just because he's let's see. When's he supposed to start next? I wouldn't have put him in. Let's see. Tentatively lines up for Miami. Is that what I said? Sorry. So I don't know. I don't know about energy coming to football. Toby said, I'm saying right now that there's a 0.0000001. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's point not 1% chance we're going to be able to get last in contender classic. Sorry. We're going to be able to get that in contender classic. And that they will let us charge up Barco and play him in season next game week. I mean, we could use Barco in season right now. Oh, Kelleher in goal for Liverpool. Sweet. Sorobro said, could only allow one extra classic with energy be another reward that isn't cash or a card and could aid in phasing classic out for them. Meaning one classic card with energy instead of two. Yeah, I was always very much in the opinion that if they took classic cards out of in-season competitions completely, people would be extremely people would leave. And the MLS thing is obviously an interesting one to kind of smooth out the transition, but meaning in your head, you're like, oh, I'll use this because I get more. Like that's all people want. If I going to use 5 in-season cards, give me more of what I would have won versus if I didn't. And the lack of an in-season bonus doesn't matter to most people. So we'll see. I don't know. But we said I meant more that if energy comes to football, it will look very different in MLB. Yeah, I assume so. I assume it would look very different. But energy is, and Sower Burrow kind of touched on this, energy is another thing that they can reward. And if there's one thing that we can all agree on, it's that they really don't have any gamified rewards that are interesting. XP, it's like, oh, great. Now that's XP has become a totally active thing now, where it used to be just off to the side. Right now, I'm looking here. I have 5,377 limited XP, 2178 rare, and 200 super rare, which I plan on using today or tomorrow. Can't unzoom. There we go. I forgot my daily pickouts and decisives. Do we have lineups? Is Doku starting? Anyone? Let's see. Are they out? I wish they would tell us. Here we go. Man City, Doku's in. Let's go. Give me a little Doku. Oh, I forgot it was a Merseyside Derby day. Is it Sulemana Day? Probably not. Shout out Sam Tai. Enciso against Bournemouth. I doubt it, but let's see. Is he in? Oh, he is. Doku, I'm not taking it. I don't think I have a single Liverpool player. Yep, none. Corinthians tonight. How about Corinthians giving me River Plate and Midtjylland collection utility? River Plate against Universitario. I'll do Paolo, I think. Oh, Juanfer. Never mind. Juanfer season. Anyway, there we go. Have an MLS goalkeeper keep a clean sheet in any of your lineups. Good luck to us. Oof. Boy, that daily mission was fun. Yay. Energy would be perfect for boxes, which they almost removed. Yeah. Are they definitely removing them? Are we going to keep seeing them in specials? They're just so depressing because you get 2 essence and you're like, wow, double what I was expecting. Now I have 2. Then you rip a tier 5 and you get, what did I get yesterday? I ripped 2 tier 5s. I won Savic, who used to be Stefan Savic, but now is just Savic. and whoever Rosen Bozanov is. I don't know who that is. Much like most of my gallery. I didn't even know I won this card. Vernon Addo. He looks good, though. Remember when we used to win cards that scored well? I don't really remember those days anymore. Anyway. Yeah. Savage scores well. Sadly, he's built like a cracker. I mean, some are pretty. Triscuits are pretty strong. Get a lot on there, if you dip. It's not like some flimsy tortilla chip in a thick guacamole, and you're just like, sorry, this isn't a food show. But yeah, that's what was on my mind today when it came to. Oh, never mind. There was more. So the more that I play MFL and Footium, the more interesting it is to me to hear the people talk about long-term progression. Oh, this player has gained X number of points over so many seasons. And there's an extreme long game to it, which is probably what we should be doing on Sorare. And Behab has talked about this a bunch, about how not enough people think about the long term of Sorare, and not like the long term viability of their business, but their own place on Sorare, and they don't plan far enough, or they don't plan, not necessarily planning far enough into the future, but they don't plan with any sort of long term thought in mind. And this is where everyone's like, well, you can't plan long term because Sorare just moves the goalposts or whatever. But there's this idea, and it's not even just progression in terms of scarcities or competitions, but just how you do in a certain competition. Like if you only play champ limited in season, maybe you win nothing the first couple weeks, and then all of a sudden you learn, you get a little better at the game, you get results to go your way. And there's just the time frame feels like it's very congested or not condensed, excuse me, because we're like, oh, we have to win our money right now because in season, every game that passes is one fewer game that I have to win my money back. But really, a season is a very long time. And for a lot of people in the division, once you get to Division One, and sometimes not even having to get to Division One, you only have to hashtag win once and you're set. But it's maybe not even having to win once. Maybe it's finishing in the top 25 3 or 4 times and you've done enough. But it was just very funny to me how because we were used to thinking you buy your card once and you can use it until that player is done playing in the second division in Italy and has to retire. And instead it's like, oh, I have to win like right now. And while the time frame is certainly significantly shorter when it comes to in season and winning cash, but the course of a season is actually quite long. And it feels like we keep trying to split it up into these little pieces where, again, I think that's the appropriate way to do it in terms of sort of short-term planning. And really all of your planning should be like that, looking at matchups, N5 over L5 and all that stuff. But over the course of a season, if we progress through essentially our budget, if you think of, putting out a line of how much you've spent over the season, and each time you win, it fills it a little bit. It's actually quite a long time that it'll take to fill it. And I shared that graph I had a couple months ago that sometimes it is just one big hit, and you essentially fill your. Do I still have this graph somewhere? Maybe you guys aren't ready for more spreadsheet content yet. Is this it? I don't think I have it anymore. Oh well. But it's funny to me that we have this sort of, oh wait, here it is. Look at that. I did find it. Like we have this ability to, or not ability, we have this fault almost that we have to get everything done like right away. And then we go off and we play these other games and we make like this much incremental progress in a week. And we're like, look how good I am. And in So Rare, we kind of get mad every single game week that we don't win because we feel like we're losing our opportunities. And you can make the argument on MFL or Footian that, you have as long as the player's career. It's like vintage So Rare. You buy it once and you can wait until they're ready. But I think we have to kind of recognize that the time frame, like the So Rare time frame, is longer than we think it is. And anybody is capable of producing a graph like this. And for those listening, this is just my in-season rewards up until that's December. I haven't updated since then. So basically my returns from May to December, and you could see the blue is what I've spent and the red is what I've won. And for a long time, I was hate to say in the red, I should have changed those colors, but I had spent a lot more than I won. And then it just ballooned out. That's it. And I'm working on a side project here that will hopefully make doing stuff like that much easier for everybody. And, those things just take time because we want to do it right. And we want to be able to offer something that's not a glorified spreadsheet to people. And so I'll keep you updated on that. I'll keep you updated for sure. Thank you, everybody, for coming. If you could please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Shout out to Quinny. If you like this type of content and would like to support it further, please consider joining the Patreon community. The link is right there, patreon.com/Andrew M. Laird. It's also in the link to this description. The more people who join there, the more time I'm able to spend on making content for you guys, whether it's to be shared to everybody for free every single day or subscriber only content that is not an OnlyFans. So please don't get any ideas. But there's a lot that I'm working on in the background while those people are chatting it up in our Andrew Laird Discord. So yeah, appreciate everybody who has joined, everybody who is thinking of joining. If you have any questions about it, you know where to find me, usually on Twitter or Discord. And yeah, we'll get moving. I think we're still like a dozen people short of our next giveaway. And frankly, we're running out of season. Got to hurry up. But yeah, I have Sparta Rotterdam and Ghent 5% collections that probably won't be 5% when you get them. But hey, if you wanted a collection in season for limited challenger, they're up for grabs as soon as we get a few more people. So yeah, thank you, everybody. And remember to go outside.